Hello, 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 homeschoolers! Magandang gabi sa inyong lahat. I'm so excited today because I know madami akong matututunan. So kayo ba? Excited na po ba kayo? Nandyan na po ba kayo? Hello, good evening. It's 8 o'clock and it's iHomeschool PH time. Well, alam niyo naman po, no? Pag nagsa-start po ako, lagi po akong may disclaimer, okay? Lahat po ng ginagawa po namin dito, every content that week. Hi, Rez! Good evening to you. Hello, kamusta na? How's the gang? The gang is coming, ha? Good evening. Hello, Mary Grace. Shababa. Hello, kamusta? I hope that you also included your kids to watch our show tonight. Hi, Mina. Hello, good evening. Hello, maraming salamat. Ang aming lagi nandyan every Tuesdays and Friday. Thank you so much for all your support. Anyway, as I was talking a while ago about our disclaimer, so every content and information that we're trying to show you here in iHomeschool PH, we are not here telling you na, hey, gayahin nyo kami, ito po yung gawin ninyo. We are here so that you can have a guide, okay? Only a suggestion. And hopefully, makatulong po sa inyong homeschool experience. Okay? This is not something na, uy, sinabi kasi ni Novi or ito dapat yung gawin. So we're not here for that. We are here to just be of help and hopefully a great resource in your homeschool experience. Hello, Hazel! Hello, Hazel! From DXC family with your boys. Yes. Hi, Snoop Tangkitit. Hello! Magandang gabi. Magandang gabi. Naku, sobra kaming excited. You know, sa homeschooling po, nakakatuwa lang po, one of the things that I really love to teach my kids, my 3 kids, is history. So, naghahanap po ako through the years in my 15 years of homeschooling na yung magaganda talaga na mga materials. Siguro 15 years ago, wala pa sila. So, I am glad that this team, the Halo Histories team, ay talagang gumawa ng napakagandang resource. Okay? And I'm really excited that they're gonna present tonight, and they will tell us kung paano ba sila nagsimula, ano ba yung content ng kanilang books, ano ba yung goal nila. Kaya makinig po tayo, okay? Saka they will also share to us kung paano natin magagamit tong mga resources na to na meron tayong, kumbaga, fun in doing this as well with our kids. So it's very entertaining, informative, and easy to understand resource na talagang may enjoy natin ang Philippine history. Kaya sobra po akong excited. Kaya nagpapasalamat po ako sa kanila at tinangkilik po nila ang iHomeschool PH. Pero bago ako ahead of time, I just want to make some instruction. Dahil nga po sobra po akong happy. Hello, Lopez. Hi, Mark. MJ, kamusta? Hi, Ruth. Hello, magandang gabi. Hi, Chrisley. Hello. O, shout up. Yes, good evening. Dahil sobra nga po kaming excited, mamimigay po kami ng 30 books. Tandaan niyo po, 30 books. Ito po ay mga ginawa ng Halo Histories, publishing by Tahanan Books. Una po is the Jose Rizal, 10 po nito, 10. And the Lolong, a long time ago, 10 rin po nito. At 10 po ng kasaysayan, na History of Philippine Money. So, paano po mag-join? Hazel? Give me all those chat. First, take a picture of this session with Halo Histories authors. And then, follow iHomeschool PH, follow Halo Histories, and follow Tahanan Books in Facebook, in YouTube account, that in iHomeschool PH, and the Instagram account with Halo Histories and Tahanan Books. And then post what you have learned and tag iHomeschool PH at Tahanan Books at Halo Histories, and make sure your account is public po. Kasi po hindi po namin makikita kung kayo po ay private. Okay. Next, please use po the hashtag iHomeschoolPH and hashtag Halo Histories, hashtag We Love History. Okay, maraming salamat, Hazel. Grabe. Okay, i-introduce ko na po sila. Para po mag-umpisa na po tayo, okay? I will start to introduce to you our authors. First, our first author is Michelline Espiritu Suarez. She is a wife to her college sweetheart, mother to 5 kids, and mistress to 3 lazy dogs. So pareho tayo, Michelline. A liberal arts graduate, and she is fascinated by history, philosophy, sociology, and literature. Halo History is her middle crisis in book form, and she hopes the series will spark an interest in the love for our common heritage in children and adults alike. The next author is Joonee Garcia, or they call her Miss Junie to her students. She is a music teacher, theater teacher, composer, writer, and occasional actor. She spanned the musical The Princess and the Red Carp, wow, as well as many childhood music and movement programs. She was the local musical director of the London West End production of The Sound of Music in Manila, year 2017. Our next author is Divine Hill Reyes. She is a writer with many years of experience in the advertising industry. She has written a musical album for kids about positive values, several episodes of the children's TV show Jolly Town, a few short films, and lots of commercial. She also wrote a book about inclusivity called Pitong Chinelas, illustrated by Ben Katindig, and she gets tons of inspiration for her husband and 2 daughters. Wow. And our last but not the least, Benjor Katinding is an illustrator, graphic designer, art director, animal lover, and is part of puppet theater and a youth community in the South. His many works included theater posters, a children's book, The Legend of Juan Pawikan, and the graphic short story called Carnaval, co-written with Joonee Garcia, which was a finalist at the first Philippines Graphic Fiction Awards in 2007. Wow! Amazing, amazing authors. Thank you so much. So we'll call on Michelline, Joonee, Divine, and Benjo. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good
Good
evening, everybody.
evening.
Good
Hi.
evening.
Hello. Thank you so much for, gracing our show. Homeschool page. Talagang sobrang excited ang mga homeschoolers na pakinggan kayo. Thank you so much. At ako, personally, my testimony, talagang na-benefit ako ng inyong libro, which is this is one of my kids' favorite, itong kasaysayan, di ba? Kasi yung
Thank
asawa
you.
mo, money. So, you talk about the history of money. Grabe, sobrang interesting. Saka nakakatuwa, no? Kasi when you learn the different types of money from history as well, yun nga, you combine it with history and you also learn money as well. So, doable. Sobrang panalo. Thank you so much. Okay,
Thank you.
Thank
ang
you.
dami
Novi,
na
thank you on behalf of the team for inviting us all.
Yeah.
We're excited to be here and we're excited to share our story with all of your viewers.
Yes, yes. Sobrang, sobrang kakatuwa lang kasi madami nagte-text sa akin ng mga mommies at mga kids that they're so excited to see you as well. So, hindi ko napipigilan, okay? So, let's start the ball rolling. Welcome, Halo Histories team.
Okay, thank you for that lovely introduction, Novi. And good evening, everybody. We are Team Halo Halo, and we're here to tell you a little bit about what we do. We have written a series of books for Tahanan Books, which is called Halo Halo Histories. There are currently 3 books in the series. A long time ago, Kasaysayan, and Sino Bayani, Jose Rizal. And they are all books that aim to teach children Philippine history. Not just any Philippine history, but maybe the parts that we don't normally get to hear a lot about in school. So we try to look for the lesser known bits, and we try to highlight that. Now, I have a question for all of you. What do you think about when you hear the word history as a school subject? When you were in school studying, what did you think every time you hear the word history? Did it excite you? Did it bore you? Did it scare you because of all the things you had to memorize? How did you feel about it? To you, was it facts? Was it dry hard facts and dates and names you had to remember?
Boring.
Like then, yeah, but personally, me also. But depending on the year, depending on the teacher, right? Some of you say that you find it interesting, which is great. If you had one of those teachers who would make it interesting for you, fantastic. Now, let's think now, and I address this to the mommies. How do you feel now when you hear the word history as a subject you might potentially have to teach to your kids? Does that scare you? Does that excite you? Does that worry you about how you're going to find resources or how you're going to make it entertaining? These are all things that we considered when we were writing these books because we based them on our own personal experiences about what we think about history versus how we felt about it in school. Most of us, I mean, the four of us share a general love for history, but maybe our school experiences with it weren't that great. And we wanted everyone to have a better time learning it because history is such an interesting thing that happens daily. It's not a dead thing. We're still part of it, especially now in this pandemic. We're really living a very big moment in history. So, next slide, please. We are we are a very diverse group of people, the four of us now. Two of us are in advertising, one of us is in theater. So most of our backgrounds involve a lot of storytelling. We are used to storytelling and to entertaining people with what we do. And maybe that worked in our benefit here because storytelling is probably the best, most engaging way to teach history to children. Storytelling is critical. If you organize information in storytelling, children are more likely to learn it, and adults too, of course. Because if it entertains you, you will sit with it and you will want to read it again and you will want to look deeper into it. So the storytelling aspect of our books is very important, possibly the most important, and we hope possibly the thing that sets our books apart. They are factual books, but they are also story books. Next slide, please. And there we are. That's our team. You've already met us. Michelline, the mommy, Divine, the advertising executive, Julie, the theater teacher, and Ben, the illustrator. And as I said, the four of us have a lot of you'll notice I never said historian. None of us are historians. We're just
Right.
lovers of history who want to share our research and our stories with you in a way that will be entertaining to you and your kids. And that is our team. Next slide, please. So what inspired us to write Halo Halo Histories? As I've told you, it is our shared love for history and our shared need to make it more palatable to everybody. But I want to turn it over to Michelline for a minute because Halo Halo Histories is really her brainchild. And it was her epiphany that brought it about. So Michelline, kindly let them know what it is that started this ball rolling.
Thank you, Junie. So, according to Junie, I'm in charge of telling the origin story of Halloween. Um, History was my favorite subject in college because I was blessed to have passionate teachers that taught it in an exciting and dynamic way. And when I became a mom, I wanted my kids to be excited about it too. But sadly, because of the material that they had to work with in school, which was it was factual, but it was the bare facts. It was not very exciting. It was all about knowing dates and events. What and the story part of the history was lost. I was sad that they didn't feel as excited about it as I was, and but I realized if there was a need for something, there's an opportunity. And when they got older and I had more time to think about what I really wanted to do about this opportunity, um, I decided that I wanted our children, the children of this country, to have good content, good historical references that would get them excited about their own country and their own and to love their country where it is now and where it was before. But in doing so, I knew that to produce the best content required talents that I didn't have. So I brought in three talented friends, my piano teacher Junie and friend, and my good friend Divine and Ben. And together we have such good synergy that we don't know, when we're together we interrupt each other all the time. We don't know where the ideas come from. In the end, the product is something that really comes from all of us. So who do we write for? We write for children and the curious child in each of us. And with that, I turn you over to Junie and the next slide.
Yeah, and following on that, who do you write for? I'll tell you something. One of the principal people we write for is ourselves. Those of us who have kids write for our kids, but also for ourselves. It's a guiding rule for us that if we don't like what we're writing, if it's not exciting to us, if it's not funny to us, it's not going to go into the book, because we need it to be entertaining to us so that it's going to be entertaining to you. So we write for our audience, but we also really write for ourselves. So when you read our books, you're really reading what goes on inside our heads and how we like to see the world. Now, let's talk about a little bit about who should own history anyway. Is history an academic thing? Does it have to be in those big thick books in the library and in those textbooks? Hello, Donna, I see you. Okay, Donna Simpao is here. So is history for historians to tell the story in a way that all the scholars can understand in a way of research? Is history for researchers, the people who collect the data? Is it for politicians who want to make history? What do you think? If there are kids in the audience, what do you think? Who really owns history? Does history belong to the old people? Does history belong to the academics? History belong to everyone with a PhD? What do you think? Who should own history? You want the answer? Next slide, please. The truth is, who should know their history? Oh, I was supposed to answer the question first. History belongs to everyone. Everyone. You, me,
Everyone.
your mom, your dad, your teacher, your neighbor, the jeepney driver. History belongs to everyone. And you know what? We're all part of history. We make history every day just by being alive. Right now, we're living through a moment in world history that has never happened before, this global pandemic, right? So history belongs to all of us, and we are all part of history. So of course, we should all be able to understand it and read it and not save it for just, school and for people who are studying it in depth. Next slide, please. So who should know their history? If history belongs to everyone, then who should know their history? The answer is everybody. We all should know it. We all should spend every day trying to figure out where we came from so that we know where we're going to go next. Next slide, please. Now, what is history? History is knowing who, what, when, where, and why. What are the things that happened to us? Who made those things happen? When and where did they happen? And most importantly, why did they happen? Why is it important for us to know this? So that if there were mistakes made, we do not repeat them. And if there were good things done, we carry them on and learn from them and do similar things later on. History is a way to look back to see what happened so that we can make the future better. And we really need to know the why of what happened before in order to move forward. In the Philippines, one of the biggest whys, who, what, where, and why points in our life is, of course, martial law. We learned so much from that experience, and that made us what we are at this moment in time. And this moment in time is going to inform what we are 20 or 30 or 40 years later. So it's so important to know your history, to really know it and not just know the dates that things happen. Because knowing history, you can then change it, you can improve on it, you can make it even. So next slide, please. And that is why we started doing Halo Halo Histories. So that hopefully through these books, you get inspired to dig a little deeper into history, to learn a little more, and to maybe make a little of it yourself. Now, these again are books that we feel fill gaps in the curriculum. Books with topics that you don't normally touch on. This is why we did a prehistory book called a long time ago. Because very little is said about prehistory. Most of what we learn in school centers on Spain onwards. This is why we made Kasaysayan, because we wanted to do a book about money. Haven't you ever wondered who's on your money? Why are they there? How did they get there? Who are they? And in researching that, we realized that our money tells our history in a different way. And to me, it was a more interesting way, actually. And then the Sinong Bayani series makes us explore our heroes in ways that we never knew them before. So Jose Rizal is the first of what we hope are many, where we try to take another look at heroes before they were heroes and how they became heroes. And that is the genesis of our series. We're going to look at the books a little bit now, and we're going to show you ways and suggestions where you'll be able to use the books in your homeschool class. And we're going to tell the kids a few fun facts, and we're also going to tell you about some things that you might want to try at home to make your study of history more fun. So we're going to look first at a few pages of a long time ago, and with that, I turn you over to Michelline.
Thank you. Next slide, please. So this is the cover of our first book, a long time ago, A Prehistory of the Philippines. We decided to start off our series with prehistory because it's given very little. Actually, it covers like 300,000 years of life on these islands, but it's usually the first 20 pages only of the textbook. So we felt that it's time for the prehistory of the Philippines to shine. And we also wanted to clear up some things that maybe some people have about our prehistory. One is that there was nothing here. We were just, not civilized. And the other one is that we were a proud nation. That's another thing that we wanted to clarify. The truth is, it's a bit of both. We were civilized, we had a civilization, but we were not a nation yet. Next slide, please. So in the story, next slide, yes. So to go with the storytelling portion, we wanted to ask the audience, who doesn't love a good story? And we wanted to show them that our grandparents, the people who lived on these islands, affected us and are just like us in some ways. And I want to ask Ben to talk about the comics that he makes to introduce all our books.
Hi, I'm Ben, and I'm going to talk about the comics. I'm the artist in this book, and I'm here to make everything fun. Because sometimes nga, history gets a bit dragging, diba? So I insert all these funny things that you can look, and not everyone is hindi naman lahat, diba, nagbabasa. I mean, who reads a lot. Some of us are visual, so I'm here to enliven the book by adding funny things and different ways like comics, like ads, and anything I can actually draw. This one we always introduce with a comic book format, and we introduce our characters. Now, characters are very important when it comes to making books because they are the narrators. You will see them every time, and our number one character is Tatang Tarsier. Yes, there he is, Tatang Tarsier holding. Juonee is holding one. He is old and wise and has big eyes, so that makes him wise. And he has a beard, and he wears a bandana. Para siyang ano tawag doon? What do you call that? Yung medicinal man.
Arbolario.
Yeah. Arbolario. So anyway, you use him. He's the one who tells the story in all our books. And you will meet other characters in our books like Bembol Bulol and Kasaysayan. Later, we'll show you who the characters are. So there, visuals are really there to make everything fun and give you a good ride while reading the book. Back to you, Michelline.
Okay.
I also want to point out that the use of characters helps us with our storytelling aspect, especially Tatang, because Tatang is the main narrator who appears in all the books. All the other characters belong to one book each, but Tatang goes from book to book because he is our sage. And there are 2 or 3 other characters in every book with him. And this one, as Ben said, is Bembol Bulul, who is a Bulul. Do you know what a Bulul is? Who knows what a Bulul is? And the other character here is Datu Ditu. Datu Ditu, which is a play on R2D2.
Yeah.
And he's a warrior and he's always angry. That's all he is, angry. And I forgot to tell you, Bamboo Bulul is a carving. So he can't speak because he's not actually alive. So everything he says in thought bubbles. He normally talks in emoji. That's all. Back to you, Michelline.
Okay, thanks, Junie. So now, next slide, please. Yes, this is a table of contents. So I'd like just to point out here how we use the storytelling aspect to go through prehistory from once upon a dahon, from creation myths. Then we talk about geology, geography, and the first Filipinos, and then the coming of the Austronesians, and finally life in our society before the Spanish explorers arrived on our islands. Next slide, please. This is one example of throughout the books we try to speak the language of our readers, and one thing our readers are very good at, we know, is the chat format. And so this is how we presented one of the creation theories. Of course, may creative license yan. This is not actually the actual dialogue of the legend, but we wanted to tell the story in a way that Batala, Amansinayan, and Amihan chatting together about how to create the Philippines. Next slide, please. We also, Ben is like so good at making these little graphics that catch your eye, like this certificate of live birth of the Philippines. So that's fun. That's a cute way of telling you how the Philippines came about. And on the right side of the slide, we have the address, the official address of the Philippines on a letter. And there, aside from those cute graphics, kids don't realize that they are actually, as they follow the graphics, they're absorbing a lot of important information about our country. Next slide, please. One thing that we're very proud of in our book, even though it's a paperback format like this, mostly, we have colored inserts, and the colored inserts show the actual artifacts that you find in the National Museum. So this is great because you get to see the actual things we're talking about in the book, and hopefully when you go to, you'll be excited to see the real thing in person. Next slide. Here is the earlier part of the book where we talk the first humans in the Philippines. The page on the left only appears in the second edition. If you have an older edition, it's not included in that edition because that discovery was only announced to the public in the last 3 years, and the book was published 5 years ago. So we make the book as new scientific discoveries occur, and it's just a reminder that history is fluid. People discover things, people learn more, and you have to be able to adapt your text, future editions, to include this information. Next slide, please.
So
Go ahead.
it's also a reminder that if you own an old edition of Halo Histories and a new one comes out, there might actually be stuff in there that is not in your previous edition, and it's worth looking into because we do update every book, especially if new things happen or if we get information from anyone that debunks something that we already had written before.
Okay.
So you better get one.
Okay, so This is, remember, the parents watching, remember back in high school, we were taught the three waves of migration. The first wave was this, the second wave, the Indonesians, the third wave was the Malaysians. Guess what? We memorized all of that for the test, mali pala. Just as Junie said, history evolves. So the theory of how the Philippines was populated is now not that theory, not the wave migration theory, but the Austronesian migration theory, meaning the first, aside from the original people who were here, the first humans, modern Filipinos really are mostly descended from the Austronesian race. And we talk about in detail in the earlier part of our book. But it's very painless the way we talk about it because there's so many interesting sidebars and bits that keep your attention on the information. So we talk about the migration from Taiwan and how from the Philippines, because we were so located as a very good jumping point, that Austronesians migrated to the rest of the world. And how did they figure this out? Because of the language elements that we share across the Austronesian, where the Austronesian peoples migrated. Okay, next slide. Oh,
Also
but
on
I
this
want
page,
yeah,
sorry, Michelline.
go ahead.
Also on this page, you're gonna notice a little box that says chichirya. Do you know what chichirya is for the kids in the audience? Do you know what chichirya is? Chichirya, I'm not, because I've never heard a child under the age of 12 use that word right now. Chichirya is what we used to call snacks. Things that are fun to eat but aren't really essential for your diet. So our idea with the chichirya that we scatter throughout the book, these are little trivia bits that if you don't know them, won't matter so much. You'll still get a good grasp of Philippine history. But if you do know them, they're interesting. They're interesting little trivia bits. Like the bacon bits that Ben's holding. Chichirya. Not not essential to your diet, but tasty to have. So we have a lot of those in the book, the chichirya. So another one of the things that we tried to do to make the book engaging, just so you know where that came from and why it's called that. Okay, I'm gonna keep quiet now.
Okay, next slide. Next slide. Thank you. So here's another example of, we use the BuzzFeed listicle tool to list 8 ways that planting rice rocked our world. We're now in the Neolithic period. And so that's another way that we use modern or contemporary ways of organizing information and presenting information so that the kids can relate. And if this is actually one of Ben's favorite comics, it's different kinds of stone jars, and one has patis, one has bigas, one has paminta, and one has Tito June with an H in it. Yeah, it's supposed to be a burial jar. So be careful what you put in your food. Might be Tito June. Ben, you want to talk about this more? No?
No, I'm good. Thank
Oh.
you.
So we're telling you concrete facts, but we're trying to be a little bit irreverent and funny, because you can be serious and humorous at the same time.
Yeah.
It
So,
makes
I
it
mean,
more memorable.
they really did use the jars for all those things, including burying their dead. That is
Yes.
true. So that
Yeah.
cartoon actually makes a lot of sense. It's just funny.
And on the right side is actual, one of our most famous jars in the National Museum. I personally find them very cute. There's a yawning jar and a maitum burial jar, in which the top of the jar is sculpted to look like the person who's buried inside the jar. So it's not just fun and silly things. It's serious stuff. And I think kids will actually be more interested in looking at the artifacts if they know what it means in history, what they were used for. Next slide, please. Okay, this is later on we move and we start talking about the more permanent settlements in the Philippines, and we talk about the derivation of the word barangay. It's from the word balangay, which was the word for boat. So a barangay was originally people who came in a barangay, and there were usually one family or one kinship group. And we now use that same word to talk about our LGUs, our smallest political units. So here Ben put a little barangay ID of barangay Porbs, and it's just another way of keeping kids engaged with the text. Next slide, please. Here we talk about, well, life in our islands was very marked by a lot of tribal wars. The different barangays would fight each other. And so we had this war boat, the Karakoa on the right side, and on the left side is a cannon, a bamboo cannon. And at the bottom part, is a little vignette called IMalay. It's like the chichiria. It's a pop-up that debunks urban legends about the prehistory of the Philippines. So this one is talking about how many people believe the yo-yo was invented by ancient Filipinos, but there is no evidence for that, actually.
I thought the yo-yos were invented by Filipinos, but then
Yes.
baka hindi nga.
They were found in ancient Greece also. So maybe somebody thought of it here too, but to say it's invented here, it's not entirely accurate to say that.
By the way, look
Next
at that
slide.
really cool boat full
Yeah.
of warriors. Isn't that cool? That's a real
Yeah.
illustration. Imagine punong-puno ng warriors yan. Anyway, okay, next slide.
Okay, this is also Ben's brainchild. He has this Datu dressed in costume, that man, music in the background. Na, 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 na. And his arsenal of weapons. So boys really like this. Boys and girls, but particularly boys. This gets their attention. Talks about the axes.
I remember when I was young, di ba? Yung nabibili sa Baguio, yung maraming maliliit na swords. Oh man, that was my favorite. So now we get to find out what those swords, shields, armors are. It's like your very own role-playing game, di ba? Parang that's how gaming started.
Next time mag-Filipino week, when school starts again, when we do face-to-face, why not do this kind of look instead of the typical katipunero look? You can do a datu with weapons. I
don't
that's cool.
think they'll allow that, Michelline. So next slide na tayo.
Okay. So here is another part of the colored inserts we have in our book. These are pages from the Boxer Codex. You parents might be familiar already with the Boxer Codex, which is illustrations of the ancient Filipinos at the time of the coming of the Spanish. So look at how fashionable our ancestors were.
Did you know?
You had
Yeah, and did you know that our ancestors really took care of themselves? It's really funny. They had stuff for your skin. They decorated your teeth with gold. They put all sorts of things with like tattoos, Michelline, right?
Right. There were social classes. So the two on the left, the top and the bottom, are the rich oligarchs of the time. And then you have the middle class on the top, middle, and the right. And then on the bottom middle, those are warriors. They have tattoos on them. And on the right, those are slaves. Yes. So that's how complicated and how sophisticated our society was. And this is the first, actually, if you want to be technical about it, this is where history starts in the Philippines, because history is counted from the time of written records. And this is the first written artifact found before the Spanish came pa. It is a receipt. It's a receipt written in some script, some ancient script, talking about a debt, an utang that was paid. So this is actually, this is where history starts in the Philippines. And we also have it in our colored inserts. Next slide, please. Here is how we illustrated the social classes and how we explained um, the hierarchy of social classes in the Philippines. And here's another chichirya. And here's the text on the left. It's, you know, it's not just all comics and cartoons. We have solid text. We have a lot of narration also. I like the way that the text and the graphics play on each other to keep the attention of the reader. So this is something you'll find in your book and the kids will enjoy. And next slide, please. So the aim of the thesis of the long time ago book was that we already had a civilization before the Spanish came. We didn't have a nation, but we had technology, sciences, writing, art and religion, trade with other countries in the region. We had large communities. We had government and laws, labor, social classes, warfare, public works and structures. Unlike the other great civilizations like Angkor Wat and Egypt, we didn't have permanent large structures, but we did have structures. We had barangay halls, things like that, no? So this is just to summarize the whole point of this book is that we were a civilized people before we became a nation, before the Spanish came. And the reason why we call it halo halo is because this mix of us, different dialects, different kinds
Tribes.
of clothing, different ways of life, different tribes. It's like a halo halo. And that's how we derived our name. Next slide, please. Okay. This is how we ended the book with the coming of Magellan. And this cartoon, we put it on our Instagram, and it actually provoked a lot of comments. Most commented and most shared. I think something like 10,000 views and shares. Yeah, shares. So it's a little bit naughty because here's Magellan saying, I discovered you, and here's the Datu with Tatang on his shoulder and the Bulul by his side saying, take a moment, aren't you the one who's lost? Which is technically true. He did get lost and stumble upon our island. So it's a bit of a poke at the way it's presented that Magellan discovered the Philippines. We were here first, so how can he discover it, diba?
We're gonna talk about that more because next year is the 500th year since that happened.
Yes, yes. So this is the part where the prehistory part of our textbooks officially ends. And this is how we ended the book. So I'm going to, there's many ways to use our books at home for homeschooling, and Joonee's going to talk about that.
Next slide, please. So there are a lot of ways that you can use any book as a tool in your homeschool library, but these are the ones that we feel might work best with this book. Some of them are very standard, like for example, a pop quiz. We've got a glossary at the back of our book. That's very helpful if you want to have a game night or a traditional quiz, because you can just pick out what you need from there. There are answers and there are definitions to certain important keywords. But we'd like you to think out of the box a little bit and do some other things that might make history more dynamic to you. For example, joining a virtual museum tour. Especially right now, all the museums have opened themselves up to virtual history tours, and you can go to Ayala Museum, the National Museum. You can even, I think, do the Museum of Bata now. The Binondo Museum, I know, also has a virtual tour. There's never been a better time to visit several museums in one go from the comfort of your own home. So it would be a good time to do that while working with a book. The other thing that you might want to do is discover fun in research. So after each chapter, you might want to pick a certain subject that you want to look into further. Maybe the Laguna copperplate, maybe the Boxer Codex fashion styles, maybe the actual uses and names of all the weaponry. It's really up to you. There are so many subjects you can pick from for your own little research project. Another thing you might want to do is learn by buy-in. There are several sites up now that teach you how to write it, that teach you how to read it, and I think there might even be a by buy-in font somewhere. I think I might have seen one. I'm not
Yeah, there is.
entirely sure. There
There
is,
is.
right? But there are other things. You can take a cue from us and use the devices that we use. For example, one of the other ways that we did a creation myth was we told one of them using a rap. So in your homeschool classroom, you want to do that. Write a rap about something. Generate a word search or a crossword. If you go online, you can actually find free word search generators or crossword puzzle generators. You just have to put those words in and it comes right up so that you can make your own puzzles based on this. You can make one for your kids, or kids, you can make one for your mom to test how much she remembers, and you can see who remembered better. Another thing that you can do is you can make this actually a cross subject thing. For example, why not make a barangay in your Minecraft? I know that Minecraft is all about building stuff. You might want to build a little barangay of your own in Minecraft. You might want to make a video. You might want to develop an RPG, even just on paper, or kind of the Dungeons and Dragons game using the tools and weapons of the people from the prehistory, which you will learn about in the book. You might even want to design their costumes with all that gold, right? Or you might want to even make a TikTok about it. Who knows? All these things that make sense to you, you can use in order to further show how much you learned about history. It doesn't have to be just a test. It can be a little project like that. You can even try to build your own little barangay. Building it will mean that you have to research about it. Researching about it will mean that you get to know it better than if you just looked at a picture in a book, right? So these are all ways that we would suggest that you might want to use. Take a cue from us, and don't be afraid to be a little irreverent, a little pop, a little casual about your approach to learning about history. You're still going to learn it. It's just that we're making it a little bit more fun and a little bit easier to digest. Next slide, please. Okay, so fortunately for us, a long time ago, did win a National Children's Book Award in 2016, 2017 as one of the best reads for that year. And we're very thankful to Tahanan, and we're very happy that this happened. And we're hoping that our future books will inspire the same kind of success. Next slide, please. And that's our review wall. It's us. I believe it's also in the back of our book. I'm not sure. But if you want to know what other people thought about our books, there you can see for yourself some of the reviews that we got. Also, I have to point out that we do get actual historians to check on all our writing and all our facts. These books are sent out for review several times before they're published to make absolutely sure that everything we're saying is actually correct and historically accurate. So now let's go on to the next book. Next slide, please. Crash sci-fi. Who doesn't want to know about money, right? And our money is some of the most interesting money in the world just to look at. And when you look into it, it's so much more interesting than you thought. I personally think if you read this book, you will probably never look at the stuff in your wallet the same way again. I know that's what happened to me when I started doing the research for this book. And to talk more about it, I'm turning you over to Divine.
Thank you, Ju. So book 2 is called Kasaysayan, A History of Philippine Money. So why a book about money? As in halo-halo style, it's an alternative way to teach history. It's something that you use every day, but you don't really pay much attention to. You just whip it out of your wallet because you need to pay for something. But it's actually, our money is actually an art gallery and museum in our pockets, if you think about it. It shows us who we are, shows our values, our heroes, and significant events in our history. It's like a country's selfie on a bill or a calling card for our country. So when you look at other countries' bills, it would also show their heroes, their important monuments. But I think, without, I'm biased, I think our money is prettier. Next slide, please. So our Kasaysayan book also begins with a comic, and we also say at the back of our book that some people say that money talks, and we agree. And Ben, do you want to show? You want to introduce the new characters of our book?
There's one lang that we found really funny. It's the coin, and this coin is not that smart, and he's kind of reckless, and yeah. So when you buy the book, you'll find out his name. So buy the book.
Okay, so we have characters who represent a coin bank, a bamboo coin bank. Okay, and we have a coin, and then we have a tindera. We call her Aling Suki, and they help our narrator Tatang Tarsier talk about our history through our changing bills. Okay, next slide, please. So our table of contents, here you will see how the narrative flows. It's chronological because when something in our history changes, our money changes too. Okay, so you will see that the first chapter is Mayaman without money. Really, before we didn't need any money. We had everything, that the world around us, that nature is so bountiful. We didn't need money. We had everything around us. And then the second chapter is when the Spaniards came to our shores, and that's how currency was also introduced. And then the next chapters, we had so much coins because of the many people traveling to our shores. There were a lot of coins and coins circulating. So that was a coin fusing time, as we say it. And then it goes on to show the revolution of the peso, and then we to the time that we were printing our own money. And we also talk about how it is made, the process, and where it's minted. And we show you the recent bills and how they change. So and towards the end, we also touch a bit on financial literacy for the kids. Okay, next. Okay, so also in this book, diba, in the first book we had chichirya, those little bits of information. Here we have barya. So meron din tayong ganong mga trivia about money. Okay, so we started the story with in the earlier chapters we talk about barter trade, and similarly to the first book, we have cartoons. We have comics, funny stuff to make it relevant to the kids of today. So, for example, the left side is the Neolithic period of bartering. So this guy is trading his little piggy for a sack of rice, but the girl is negotiating, make it a piggy and a stone adze, and you've got yourself a deal. So in the modern day cafeteria scenario, the boy is swapping his sandwich for the girl's apple. So that's how bartering goes until both of you are satisfied with the deal. Okay, so in the next
Can I
slide,
say, like, you kids know what bartering is because you trade
right,
stickers, you trade aside your baon. When your
stationery,
mama was small, I used to trade erasers,
pen,
yeah, ball
yes,
pens,
uh-oh,
things like that. Pokemon cards, you trade Pokemon cards. So you're actually experienced in barter
right,
trade. Tsaka uso uli ngayon yung mga
yes,
bartering
and that's on our
communities
next slide.
in ano. Yeah.
Can we go to the next
Yeah.
slide? So as
Okay.
Michelline said, it's coming back. In Facebook, there are a lot of bartering groups, and it really helped a lot of communities, especially during the pandemic. So on the left side, you'll see our cartoon about the earliest trading. You know, the traders will come to our shores and then leave it on the beach, and then the natives will approach them and then leave something for that object. On the right side, we actually repurposed this drawing for quarantine period. It's the original no contact delivery. So it's coming back. Okay, so on
We're bringing barter back.
yeah.
Yeah.
Next slide, please. In Kasaysayan, we also have colored inserts. And this is a beautiful page because it shows the gold, the kind of gold that our ancestors had. And they're very, very finely crafted. We were actually known in the region for making intricate and beautiful gold jewelry. We made weapons with it and also household objects. We made these little beads called piloncitos. The smallest was around the size of a mongo bean. You eat mongo, you'll know how small that is. And which could actually be considered the first coins. So we had so much gold, and then the Spaniards came and saw that we had all this gold. So Ben made this beautiful spread of this illustration. Ben, you want to talk
Yeah.
about your illustration?
Yes, as soon as I see it.
Next slide.
When the Spaniards came, they were super gulat because, man, were actually loaded, as in loaded with all the gold. And you can see it in the museums nowadays. I mean, I didn't even know. But when I went to sa mga museums, it was full of gold. Everything. Kahit yung may chest plate na gold, lahat talaga may head armor na gold. Everything you can think of. The Pinoys were covered with gold. So yeah, ang yaman natin, kawawa talaga tayo. So anyway, go Divine.
Ang yaman natin talaga. Before, yeah. Then a lot of people got our gold because we didn't think of it as, something they'd want.
There are the two Spanish guys looking at us saying, "Whoa, look at that!" Right?
Yeah.
You can already. I love this cartoon because you can already see in their eyes that they're starting to plan their next.
Okay, so the next slide, please. So when the Spaniards came, coins from Spain, from Europe, arrived on our shores. So they had portrait coins. Whoever was the reigning king or queen, they had their faces on the coin. So these are called the portrait or bust coins. Okay, so there's King Carlos III on the left, and then on the top right is King Alfonso XII, and Queen Isabella II, a young girl when she became queen. So she was called Isabelina, and because she looked so cute on the coin. And then there was this. Okay, so let us go to the next slide, please. Okay, I'm gonna ask Michelline to help tell the story of this very action-packed time in our history.
Thanks, Divine. So this part of history is very fast-moving, and a lot of changes went on. This was around the time of the Philippine Revolution. I'm also going to move more quickly through the slides so that we have time to go through everything. So we decided to tell the part from the Philippine Revolution up to independence, up to World War II. We decided to borrow from the Star Wars franchise to tell the story. And not only kids love this part, but parents too. You'll see. Next slide, please. Prior to that, you skipped the slide. Can we go back? There we go. So we start with episode 1. Episode 1, the Philippine Force Awakens. What happened to the picture? Does anyone see the picture? There. Okay. There. It's animating. Okay. There. So the episode 1, the Filipino Force Awakens. Sounds familiar. Yeah, we kind of stole the title a little bit. Filipinos rise up in revolution against Spain. And then here, if you might recognize some of the lines from the Star Wars franchise. It is our destiny. It's a trap. Right. Next slide. Oh, and by the way, this is also featured in the 5 peso bill. That's seen the Philippine Revolution, the waving of the flag in Kawit. It's featured on our old 5 peso bill. I didn't mention that in the last slide. So here we talk about we talk about the Spanish American War, and we use the meme format naman to talk about the relationship between Aguinaldo and George Dewey, and how we were sold to America for $20 million as part of the loser's fee for the Spanish American War. So
And they didn't tell us.
yeah,
We
we
thought
didn't
we
know
were
about
cool.
it. Yeah, we didn't know about it. So medyo we were out of
Out of
left
the
out,
loop.
feeling left out.
Yep.
Yes. And next slide, please. So here is episode 2, Rogue Moves. So the US makes a rogue move, and Uncle Sam says, I am your father now. And we say, no. And it is an example of the money we had during this time when the US was governing us. We had George Washington on our pesos. And we also had these lovely European looking women on our
The Good
pesos.
Luck
So very
Women
different.
series.
Yes, very different from the people we have on our today. Who
We
would have
should
thought George Washington was on our money? Next slide. So this is episode 3 naman, the Commonwealth Alliance. And here is Manuel Quezon paraphrasing a line which we replaced the horse with Commonwealth. And he's telling people that he is now in charge under the supervision of the United States. He worked very hard for us to have that Commonwealth, which is sort of a preparation, a practice government for independence. We don't get to elect our leaders, the United States appoints. And if you notice, our bills, we have coins that say 1 centavo, but they have the US seal on them in the back. The bills are signed by President Quezon, so that's the change in the money. Next slide. So episode 4, the Japanese Empire strikes back. And here, the Japanese forces kick out the Americans and take over, and now they are our masters. And here is the example money from that time, and it was known as Mickey Mouse money. Mickey Mouse money because it was easily counterfeited. It was made of such poor quality. It was like play money, and it was nearly worthless. And here Ben is showing us his collection of
Because he was alive back then. So
I was.
yeah. There you go. So
Hindi
yeah,
ito. It's
50
tiny.
cents. 50 cents in a
Play
bill. Look
money.
at that.
but that was worthless. Like you need a whole sack of those bills to buy rice because people
Right.
didn't believe it was real money. Yeah, it was so easy to fake. So, wow.
Parang Monopoly, no?
Yes.
Oh yeah, it was like play money. Yeah. Next slide. So this is the last of the Star Wars storytelling tool, episode 5, The Return of the General, and we have Tatang there who kind of looks like Yoda. So we tell the story of how Douglas MacArthur comes back, and here we use more lines from Star Wars, which actually the parents I think enjoy more than the kids kasi mas panahon nila yung itong franchise ano,
A lot of kids are watching Star Wars pa rin.
a lot of
Yeah.
kids. That's
Yeah,
true.
yeah. My kids
Yeah.
watched all the movies na. Yeah.
Look at this bill.
Next
It
slide.
says victory. It's the same one.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
yeah, there. So they would stamp the old bills victory,
Funny, no?
just to let the Filipinos know that MacArthur was coming back.
Mm-hmm.
So when people saw this on their money, parang it's like a message. Hey, hang in there. We're gonna be back.
We're coming. We shall return.
Yes. Next slide, please. So now this is part of our colored insert. We were now an independent nation, and we finally printed our own proudly Pinoy money. So you can see it says Central Bank of the Philippines finally. And we now have Filipinos on the money. The nice thing about this period, the bills were in English still, not Filipino. So the nice thing I like about this period is that the bills featured writers and artists too. There's another bill which is shown in our book. Gomburza is on the bill. Tandang Sora is on the bill. So it's nice. It's nice that we honored our writers and artists and non-politicians in our money before. They were said to be the most beautifully designed banknotes in our history, and the only notes issued by our central bank in English. So this was our money until 1974. Next slide. Okay, here's a fun way that we wanted to show how we told we told the kids about our presidents. We made them a Facebook page. So here's Elpidio Quirino's Facebook page on the left side. What would he put on his Facebook page? So there's his inauguration and something he did there with a hashtag. These are some of his accomplishments. And on the right is President Estrada's Facebook page. And here he's in a relationships. He's a movie star. And in January 17, 2001, he posts, "Why are there so many people on EDSA right now? What's going on, guys? Guys?" So ask your parents why he said that. We thought this was a cute way to get the kids interested about the presidents. And it's a good exercise also to do at home. You can ask them to choose a hero, choose a public figure, and make a pretend Facebook page for them. And here is, next slide, please. This is our colored centerfold. We have a centerfold in our book showing the evolution of Philippine money from its first, from gold all the way to the pesos that we know today, the pesos we know and use today. So it's a nice, there you go, Junie showing it. It's a nice, helpful timeline that tells the story of our country, and you can really see our history through our bills and coins, because who gets to be on the money? Syempre, it's the important people in our history. It's your rulers. So you can see the faces of the rulers change as our history changes.
It's a good reference.
Yes, very good reference. And so now we go to the activity portion. We're going to suggest activities that you can use with our book, and I turn you over to Junie again.
Yes, I'm back. Yeah, one of the best things that I think you can do with this money, and I know because I did this bit of it, is to actually take a look at it. We have a part in the book that shows you all the things that should actually be on your money. Did you know that the front of each bill features a famous historical figure along with a famous historical event? And it features security features like that magnetic strip in the middle, the silver one, the silver foil, and the serial number that goes in escalating size right there on the up here. This up, yeah. And in the back, it's always going to be a creature that only exists in the Philippines.
And oyster.
And along, well, no, this, but yeah, it only, that particular only exists here, and it also shows a particular place in the country. And that Philippine map on the back will show you where on the map the place that's being featured actually is. I didn't know that until we had to do this book. So you have a little tourist map, tourist thing in your wallet every time. You know where to, you know what that, if you know what that is, you know where to go. Isn't that cool?
If you
I thought that was the coolest thing.
tell you where it is, where these things are.
We also have, sorry, and Kasaysayan is the book that has the most activities built in. We have a very fun one here called How to Spot a Fake Bill that shows you all the things you have to look for to make sure your bill is authentic. And if you have money at home, it's really fun to hold it up to the light and find all these features on your money. I love doing that activity. Can we go to the slides again, please? Because I think we have some activities there as well. We've got a pop quiz in this book already. And we have a design your own money feature, because in Kasaysayan, we actually take you to the process of how money is made, from the time, from who gets to decide what's on it, who makes the picture, what kind of machinery makes it, until it actually comes out. So we have a design your own money page in the book that goes, that kind of walks you through everything that needs to be on the bill so that you can make your own bill. We are, of course, in our heads hoping that they turn out like all those beautiful bills that you see. But next slide, please. There's the money. That's what you call the obverse and the reverse. We don't say front and back because they have to both be equally important. So next slide, please. That's the template for designing your own money. And we give you some suggestions up there of things you can put on the money. A hero, a local animal, a plant. But usually the results come out more like the next slide. I think it is. Next slide, please. There, that's a sample that Ben made of the money he would make. That's Ben's money. He gave it a very...
Can you tell?
Yeah.
Can you tell us? Can you tell the audience, Ben, why is it 623 pesos on the
Because the
money?
time I was making it, I went to the supermarket the other day and my bill was 623 pesos. And wouldn't it be nice to have exact change na bill, diba? So there it is.
There it is. 623
Also my
pesos.
dog, boo. My dog is my dog.
And also his dog. Because you can put important things on money. It is worth noting, though, that our actual money, most of the people who make it onto the bills and coins are already dead. So, yeah, you'd have to wait a bit. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, here are some suggestions. One of them is you could actually create a collection of old coins and bills. They don't have to be super old. You know, just last year or the year before, we demonetized some currency. So some of the money that has been around since some of you kids were born is already not being used in circulation. So you can already start your collection from there. And when you get older, your grandkids will look at it and say, wow, what's this? You had a 10 peso coin or a 5 peso coin or whatever it is. The 5 peso coin and the 10 peso coin were just recently changed. So we have two in circulation now. The older one is going to be out of circulation soon, and it can be the start of your collection of old coins and bills. Or if you travel, you can also collect money from other places and compare it to our own. You're going to find that ours is some of the prettiest, most interesting one. Next slide, please. This is another thing you can do. You can label your money and a little bit about financial responsibility and how to take care of your money once you've made it. And one of the things we suggest is to divide it into money to spend, save, invest, and give. It's a nice activity to make an envelope or a container for each one of these things so that you can have them somewhere that you can see them. And every time you have a little money, you can divide it accordingly. It's also a good way to maybe incorporate into your math subject. You could do addition, you could maybe do fractions. So it's another way to just cross-reference everything. And to make a money envelope with your own little label, you'd also be crossing over into art. Sometimes, especially for homeschooling, you can afford to think a little bit out of the box and make the lessons go this way instead of just one subject at a time. And these books, I think, lend themselves very well to doing that. Next slide, please. Another thing you can do is interview people. Talk to your lolas and lolas. Ask them how much stuff was back then. For example, we have on the right a menu. Can you guess what menu this is? This restaurant is still around today. That is a very, very old restaurant from Max. Max, the house that fried chicken built. And my eyes are really bad, but it says, see, a whole order of chicken cost you 5 pesos.
Halo-halo is 1 peso. Can you imagine?
Now, again, if you want to be creative about your math, you could then talk about inflation and try to figure out if the price of the chicken dinner before was equivalent to the price now, or did it go up, or did it go down? It's a nice way to, again, cross-reference. And interviewing people to find out these things is an interesting way to do it. I went to school in De La Salle Zobel, and when I was in grade 3, my very first tuition was 300 pesos for the quarter. Unbelievable. That also shows you how old I am. Okay, next slide, please.
Nabutan ni Joonee tong fried chicken dinner.
No. Although the fried chicken dinner is newer than the Mickey Mouse money, huh? Okay, so
Here's our
expertise ni Novi and Chinky Tan, yung financial responsibility part.
financial responsibility. That's right. That's right. So they could probably talk more about that and hopefully include a little bit from the chapter in our book when they do it. So
Baka may
Yes.
blurb na tayo makukuha sa kanila.
yeah, and here are, as usual, the reviews about this book from BPI and some other key people and key historians. We find that it is very important to include these things so that you will know that the books are in fact backed by research, no matter how irreverent they seem to be, and that we do consult the people who know better to make sure that we are telling you the correct things. So next slide, please. And now we move on to the last book that we're talking about. This is not part of a regular series. It's part of a new series that we birthed called Sino Bayani. Get it? Get it? So it's gonna tackle not national heroes. It's gonna tackle heroes of our country, because Jose Rizal is not even officially our national hero, if I'm not mistaken. And we want to show them in a different light, a lighter light, if you may, some things about them that make them more human to us. Why do we want to do this? So that it'll inspire the kids, so that kids will know that all heroes started as ordinary, regular, everyday citizens. And if you know how they became what they were, then you will know how to maybe become one yourself in your own way. So I'm going to turn this over to Divine, because Divine is the Rizal girl in our team. So
This is a shorter, bigger book, and it's
Yes.
full
Yeah.
color.
Okay
It's
ba kayo,
full color,
guys?
yeah.
Gusto nyo mag-stretch muna? Mabilis na lang to, okay? Yeah. Stretch. All right. So, this is our third book, but it's actually book 1 of Halo Halo Especial. So, bakit siya especial? Meron siyang leche flan sa taas. Mas malaki siya, as Ben said. It has full color pages. Mas konti yung pages niya, but it's in full color, and it's just a visual feast for our readers. Okay, so why Jose Rizal? There's so much material about Jose Rizal, but what piqued our interest? When you look at postcards or posters of Philippine heroes, parang serious nila palagi, di ba? But we stumbled upon these photos of Jose Rizal while he was studying in Madrid, and he was, goofing around like a regular barkada of yours na, may mga trip kayong mga barkada. And then going back further, how was he like as a kid? Because, a lot of decisions that you make as an adult were influenced by all your experiences starting from your childhood. So that's how we wanted to show Rizal. We opened the book with, we show Jose Rizal growing up. Okay. So similarly, next slide, please. Similarly, we begin this book with a comic that explains kind of why we are doing this book. So, Ben, anything you want to add to this page?
I think this page introduces us to the fact that Rizal, ang galing-galing niya, but he's also human. Diba? Parang, actually, I was asking everyone nga, okay lang kaya pakita kay si Rizal na nagbo-burp? Kasi lahat naman tao nagbo-burp, diba? So, there, I made him burp. First ever Rizal burping.
Burping illustration, yes, by Ben. Thank you for that. So here, in this book, we show about the boy before the hero happened. He was an awkward misfit who somehow found himself in a position of greatness. There is a story of Jose Rizal told the Halo-Halo way, with eye-popping visuals from beginning to end, making this multifaceted Filipino hero come alive for today's youth. So in the next slide, you will see how multifaceted Rizal was. So Ben made these cute illustrations of Rizal the athlete, Rizal the romantic, Rizal the traveler, na naka-ano pa no? Naka-shorts pa in Hawaiian shirt ba yan, Ben? Oh, di ba? He was a mystery man. He was a farmer, a doctor. Ang daming sides of Rizal that many people can identify with. So, Okay, here is this opening spread is about Rizal. He's like the 10-year-old or 12-year-old answering a slam book. Okay, and here nakikita kaagad natin a snapshot of his childhood, what his experiences were his likes, his dislikes, his saddest moments, his happy moments. So makikita natin yan in one spread. And here we will also see that our hero is a product of homeschooling. So he was homeschooled for several years by his mother before he left and went to another town to attend traditional school. So yay. Next slide, please. So after that page, we have a spread on about Rizal, the honor student, when he was in high school. So this is just a section of the page, but here we show that he kept a journal and wrote a lot about his experiences as a student, and that's why we know so much about him. Okay, next slide, please. We have a spread on him being a college student and also a student in Europe, and he had a lot of Filipinos with him, and that's the ilustrados. Okay, they're the educated Filipinos who studied in Europe. So this page is like a yearbook page, and it really shows their personality. Si Jose Rizal, may mga nag-scribble dyan ko na kurips. He was kuripot because he was really, really on a budget when he was studying abroad. And then his friends are Juan Luna, who is very intense, and Marcelo del Pilar, his frenemy. So they had the typical relationships too in those days. And he loved goofing off with his friends. They have funny photos. They were always role-playing, because Juan Luna, the painter, will always have tableaus because he needed people to pose, and they would just have fun photographing themselves. Oh, Rizal loved photographs, and he had, for a person that time, he had a lot of selfies. Okay, next slide, please. And then we show the side of Rizal where he was a traveler. He went to so many countries. He was ahead of his time. He was a global Filipino. And the things that he observed, what was good and what was bad in each country. And he tried his best to bring that knowledge to the Philippines, to apply that to the Philippines. And then next slide, we also have different slides about his profession. So we have Rizal, the doctor. So diba, he was an eye doctor. He even treated his own mother. And then Rizal was also an artist. He sketched. He was a sculptor. He had very, very notable sculptures in various museums. And then also Rizal as a writer, most importantly, because this is how he spread information, and this is how he inspired a lot of Filipinos to think as a nation. Okay, next slide. So, of course, when he wrote those books, he got arrested. So when he was brought to the Philippines, he was exiled in Dapitan. So he was quarantined there for 2 years. So that part of his life is so relevant now, no? So that's why there's this list of what to do when you are in exile. He was actually very productive during that time in Dapitan. He built stuff. He started a farm. He planted so many trees. He made sculptures, drew sketches, wrote, and treated patients. So many things. So little time for Dr. Jose Rizal. And every page could actually become one lesson, and like kasaysayan, parang may ingrained activity na doon eh. And so Juonee and Ben will tell us more about it in the next slide.
Yes, we will. Okay,
Yeah.
so and this is funny because we can now all be Rizal and do all these things in exile. Of course, Rizal had no Netflix, so maybe that's a reason why he was a little more productive than us. But having said that,
now is a good time to tell the kids, you know what? Just because we're in quarantine doesn't mean that we can't be super productive and do things that will make a lasting impact. Even though they might not feel that way now. One of the things you can do is in My Hero's Slam Book. The Slam Book is a very old device. I'm not really sure if a lot of kids now understand what a Slam Book is, but if your mom went to school anywhere up to 1980 something, she would probably know what a Slam Book was, and it might be a nice time to resurrect that idea. Another one, you can even make it. Everyone's very crafty now. Everyone likes making little books with washi tape and bullet journaling, and that sort of thing is only about 3 steps away from a slam book, really. Uh, or you can try sculpture. Sculpt your pet with clay. Depending on what kind of pet you have, that's going to be an easier or a harder task. If you have a turtle or a lizard, it might be easier than if you have a dog. Like I have a Maltese and she's all fur. So that
You
might
can
be a
always
little harder.
put clay on your pet. Anyway, this was Rizal's sculpture. It was a dog
Yeah.
biting a crocodile or an alligator. I can never tell. But
Yeah.
isn't that cool? He's really
That is
good.
very cool. That is very cool.
Galing niya mag-
Or magaling. Magaling.
And in the
Or
book, you learn the story behind this sculpture.
yes, you will. And then there's virtual travel. That's the favorite question of everyone. Where would you want to go when the pandemic is over? And if you look, well, I'll show you in the next slide later. Then you could also do a journal. Me in quarantine. Start writing your journal. Who knows? Maybe you'll become famous one day. And then they'll look back on your journals, and every little thing you said will become important. Even if it was just, I binge watched this series today, or I stared at the ceiling today. If you become a Nobel Prize winner, no matter what you did when you were a kid, they are going to love it. So now might be a good time to journal. And actually, as a side note to everyone, now is a good time to journal because historians are starting to collect material from this time.
Yeah.
30 years from now, people are going to want to know what we were doing in quarantine. So they have started collecting little things. It's a nice time to make a journal, actually. Put a photo of your surgical mask, your alcohol, all these things that people 20 years, 30 years from now will not understand why we need it, right? Now is a good time to collect all of that. You're actually living a moment in history. And it's interesting. Another thing you can do is
test, diba?
you can put your swab test results. Yes, you can. You can also be a scientist in training. Start exploring your yard. Rizal was fond of biology, right? And
Yes.
he had all these creatures, he had all these things in jars. Now would be a good time to.
He actually discovered some insects.
Yes, he
There's
did.
3
He did
creatures
actually.
that were named after him.
Yeah. And I know that the homeschool mommies here, I know Kana, you're watching, Kana Velasco with Kaylin, if you're there. And I know that Kana's a friend of ours and she's an actress. And I know that she does do these nature walks with her daughter because she's a homeschool mom. And they collect bugs and things like that. And they've seen caterpillars go into the larval stage. These are all interesting things that we can now do at home because we have the time to do them. And it's probably also a time in education that we're never going to get again, when we get to look at things in a different way and teach them in a different way. Next slide, please.
Did Rizal discover the lizard? Rizal lizard. Okay, never mind.
No. Okay, and then this is a page called Is That You, Jose? Get it? Because it so happens there are a lot of monuments to Jose Rizal around the world, not just here. And we have a handy dandy checklist right over there. So one of the things that you might want to do virtually is find out if you can locate all the statues of Rizal all around the world. And who knows, one day when you're traveling, you might actually be able to physically tick off that checklist. I know there's one Rizal statue in Japan. There's one in Spain. We've listed all the countries there. It's interesting because, Germany. Because
there's one in Argentina, see? There's Singapore. Really, he's a global hero. He's our hero. He's from the Philippines, but because of what he did and his writings, the whole world benefited from him. So all these countries honored him. And I think that's amazing. We should be more proud of that.
It is amazing. He's an international man of mystery.
And in the book, you'll also find out marami rin siyang girlfriends sa ibang bansa.
Yes, he had many girlfriends. That is true. He was a ladies' man.
But not
So-
at the same time. Not naman at the same time. One
Not
at
at
a
the same time, no. One at a time, but there were a lot.
Yeah.
So
In love with
Well,
love.
that's
In love with
We'll
love.
find out in the book. Yeah, he's super romantic.
Yeah.
He's in love with love.
Yeah.
next slide, please. Hopeless romantic. Next slide, please. So that's the Halo Halo Histories series. And you can follow us on social media to see what's happening with us. If we have new books coming, if we have events, you can also. I've been reading the comments, and a lot of people are asking where to get the books. They've always been available in the fully booked near me, just at Alabang, and I saw somewhere that they were not out in National Bookstore. But
Yes.
the fastest way to get them, I think, is to just order them directly from Tahanan, which is flashing their website on the page now, www.tahananbooks.ph. You could go over there right now and order it. They always have it in stock for sure. Suggested retail price of the books is 225 each for cash saysayan and a long time ago. And Jose Rizal retails at 295 because it's a little bigger and it's in full color. Do follow us on social media. We post quite actively and we do answer any questions you might have.
There's
Next
a
page,
special
next slide.
price for that, Ju. Sorry, there's a bundle price na 695 only for the 3 books. So order now.
Yeah. Okay. Next page. Next slide, please. Now, the other thing that we do, or that we used to do before the pandemic happened, is we do school visits. They're called Halo Halubilos. And we do go to schools and talk to children. And sometimes we teach them how to draw tatang tarsher, among other things. And they ask us questions about writing or about history. We'd be happy to do that at some future time for the homeschool mommies, or maybe online, who knows. If you would like, or if you're interested to know about the Halo Halubilo, you can get in touch with Meg from the Hanan Books. She'll help sort you out. It's a very nice way to connect. We like connecting with our readers, and I think I used to love reading as a child, and I used to love meeting the authors who wrote my books. We also do book signings at these events when they aren't virtual. So that's the Halo Halo video. Thank you. Your books are so engaging. Thank you so much. Okay, next slide, please. Is there another slide after this?
What's this?
Yes.
Oh, yes. And follow us on social media, because from time to time we will release things like this. This is a series we released during the pandemic, and it talks about your social media personalities, your quarantine personalities. And we used some of our Philippine heroes. For example, Mabini is patient, Rizal is productive, Lorenzo Ruiz is prayerful, you can see. And I think the next slide as well is also a sample of our social media. Next slide, please. Yes,
There.
and here are some more of the pandemic things we did about face masks, about social distancing, about the flu pandemic. So we do release new content while in between books that try to forward our discussion. In case you're curious, we were starting work on a book before the pandemic. Our next book, which is gonna be, I can say it, right? Yeah, we've announced it before. It's called Gobierno with a Know, where we talk about what government actually does. What does a senator do? What does a congressman do? What does the president do? What do the vice presidents do? How about the mayors? How about the SK? How about the barangay captain?
And what are they not supposed to do?
There you
And
go.
what are they not supposed to do?
Yeah.
And we hope that when this book comes out, it will help us to raise more informed, more responsible voters later on. Yeah. Next slide, please. Or are there any more slides after that? Okay, yeah. So follow us on Halo Halo Histories on Instagram and Facebook. And there's our little achievement wall. Does anyone want to explain our achievement wall?
Yeah, that's Piolo Pascual next to the Bible.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, this is just showing how the support that we get on social media. We try to also, we have to sell ourselves. So we have posts with Ambet Ocampo, And we have celebrities also posting with our book, and we also post about our book signing events. Just to keep our audience engaged, and to so that they will follow us. Please follow us.
Oh, thank you. You fell in love with their book. Thank you so much. Okay, next slide, please.
I think that's it.
There's
Okay.
one more, yes. Okay, and we would like to close the presentation itself with a quote from Jose Rizal. In order to read the destiny of a people, it is necessary to open the book of its past. He couldn't have said it any better. Making history is something that we all do every day. And if we look back on what people did before us, we will have a better idea of how we are to move forward. So
Hindi yan
let's
si,
make history.
hindi yan
Yes,
si
po.
Jose Rizal, by the way.
No, that's not Jose
Well,
Rizal. That is
but ano siya, a nod to Jose Rizal, and there's the moth near the
yeah.
lamp. A modern lamp.
And I know that we were going to do a Q&A, but I thought I've been reading the comments, and there's just a couple that I want to mention now so that they don't have to come up in the Q&A. Someone was talking about teaching history and how a lot of people teach it with a bias. And you can see that it's rampant in social media right now. I would like to point out that one of the things we try very hard to do is provide very neutral facts and keep our personal sides out of it. Even within our team, we have different political views, and we try very hard to respect these and feel we should teach our children to do the same. So what we would like to do is make sure that all our facts are accurate, that we present as many sides of the story as we can. And this will then allow children to make the decisions on their own, or guided by their parents or teachers to make these decisions on their own. We don't want to color any of our writing with our own views, because those would be ours. They might not be yours. Even within the four of us, they're not all the same. I'd also like to point out something I forgot to say in the beginning about the four of us. We are a collective brain, and in case you were curious, the process goes very quickly like this. Michelline does the research, the main core of the research, and then she throws it over to me, and I try to make it kid-friendly, and then I turn it over to Divine, and she tries to make it very contemporary and give it a very Pinoy flavor. And then we throw it to Ben and say, can you draw all these pictures? And he draws every single one
So everything.
of the pictures.
I'm the last one.
He
I'm the
actually
toilet,
has, he actually
I'm,
has the most work.
I'm the toilet
Yeah.
paper of lunch.
Yeah. Because the three of us write, and then he has to draw. There's three writers and one artist, so he has to draw
Wow.
everything. And you can see how heavy in pictures our books are. So that is yeah. And a few more. I'd like to shout out to Dina Dominic, who loves Minecraft. I'm so glad you like Minecraft. Can you make a little barangay in your Minecraft? Can you make one? And
That's a good
Ryla.
idea.
Yeah. And a shout out to Ryla. I'm so glad to know you love our book. And for the
Can I
person
say
who
hi
asked,
to my nephew and niece, Amanda, my cousin, and Keon and Zia? Hi.
hello.
Hi,
And
boo. Hi,
for the
boo.
person who asked if we have an ebook version out, we don't have an ebook version out yet. I don't think we're gonna have one anytime soon. And we are so happy to know that a lot of you have our books, and we are
Hey,
really
there's
glad
a
you enjoy them.
question. Anong age group suitable ang book?
We wrote them
Eight.
for age not
8 to 88.
8 to 88, but you know what? Some sevens have enjoyed them. Some sixes and sevens who are early readers have enjoyed them. So you might want to try, but definitely we wrote them for 8 all the way up. We thought our main audience would be about 8 to 12, but we've had high schoolers and parents say that they love it just as much.
There's a comment from Miss Ruby Rowan Cristobal. Let's do kasaysayan stories about Filipino scientists. That would be interesting.
Oh, that's nice.
Diba?
Interesting.
Maganda.
That's
They
not-
are heroes too.
Someone has asked
Yes.
us about science before. It's come up
Yes.
before. So
Yes.
Yes.
So the more it comes up, the more likely it is we're probably gonna do. It was so fun listening. Thank you so much. It was so fun for us to be here. And we do wish you luck in your homeschooling efforts. I'm a teacher. I love teaching. So
good luck. If you approach it in the right frame of mind, teaching is actually such a rewarding thing to do, and so much easier when your classroom only has one child and not 30. Just so you know. um, are there any more questions, or should we turn over to Novi? Nove?
Thanks.
Wow. Grabe. As in, wow, this is weird. Talagang sobrang happy kaming lahat. Thank you so much.
Thank
It
you
was not
too.
also in books, but
And
I'm
also-
seeing you live, the four of you. Thank you so much. And alam mo, may nagtatanong dito last, can you release all of these books daw in Filipino?
We want
No,
to.
that's his kuma.
We have been asked. We have been asked. Yeah.
If anyone knows any translators, because
The
Our-
publisher is considering it, but we have to get a good translator.
translator,
Yeah. Who can translate
the humor.
the
Yeah,
humor,
and keep
yeah.
the humor. Keep the humor.
Yeah.
Oh, somebody is asking. Sorry. Somebody is from RD. This is Kokoy. Leva. Some consider Rizal as a god. Are they still around? Yes, there are still groups.
Yes.
The
that-
Rizalistas, yes, they are alive and kicking, and they still believe what they believe.
Yeah.
They're interesting. They're quite interesting,
Yeah.
actually.
Ito, my mom was
They even
watching.
think he's still alive, diba? They even think he's still alive and
Oh, do
living
they?
somewhere. Yeah.
Hmm.
Mm-mm.
Oh, like,
Mm.
okay.
Okay,
Wow.
thank you so much. Grabe. It's
you.
1 hour and 40 minutes, but it's nakatuto kami and it's really so engaging. Ako natapos ko na lahat ng 3 libro. Parang gusto ko ulit ituro dahil sobrang gaganda ng mga nuggets and syempre the chichirya facts. And also, ang favorite ko ito, may picture kayo dito. Nakakatuwa kayo dito. Yan. Talaga.
Picture yan ng picture yan ng barkada ni Rizal.
Oo, talaga.
Day,
The faces
yun
namin.
yung 18th birthday ni Juonee.
Where we serve the Max Fried Chicken meal.
Yeah, with all honesty, thank you so much for making Philippine history for us to be able to connect with fun. And, it's really easy to understand. Saka talagang, because it's easy to understand, there's really retention in our brains. And you can tell the story to everyone, kahit na in a natural way of just telling stories. Thank you for making these resources. So, we are looking forward to gobyerno. Okay? Gobyerno. Kailan ba timeline niya? Nandito kayo live.
No.
Kailan
Well,
ang
we
timeline? Talagang
COVID kind of made it go like this a bit.
diba?
Yeah.
Pero hopefully this year ba yan, yung gobyernong yan?
We're hoping before the next election. We're hoping, okay? So pray for us that
Pray for
Yeah,
us.
we can get it done. Yeah.
Thank you,
There's so much
thank
research
you so
to do,
much.
eh.
Kung pwede ko palang papalakpakin yung mga tao dyan ngayon, hindi ko mapapalakpak. Wala ko na lang. Thank you
Emoji
so
na
much.
lang. Emoji.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Novi.
We enjoy.
Nice to meet all of you.
Oh, thank you. Kakatuwa talaga si Ben. Sobrang nakakatuwa.
Bye-bye from Tatang.
Okay. Now, so, yung mga nag-i-inquire dyan, so go get the book at www Tahanan Books. Meron po silang promo na bundle, di ba? I think it's 600.
Yes,
I'm not
we mentioned it 600. What was it? 695.
695.
For all three. For all
Hanggang
three.
kailan yung bundle na to? Hindi ko lang alam hanggang kailan, pero please
Yeah,
get it.
just check it.
Hanggang
Just check
meron pa.
the site.
Yes. So if you enjoyed our session today with our Halo-Halo historians and histories authors, okay, just join us and you can be able to post yung mga favorite nuggets nyo of the session. Post that and tag us. Hazel, can you repeat that? Can you repeat all that? Yes. Take a picture of the session with Halo-Halo histories author, and then you can follow iHomeschool PH, Halo-Halo Histories and Tahanan's Book in Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram account. And post what you have learned and tag at iHomeschool PH, at Tahanan Books, and at Halo-Halo History. And make sure account is public or else we cannot see your post. Okay, and use hashtag iHomeschoolPH, hashtag Halo-Halo Histories, and hashtag We Love History. So you can win one of these books.
Yay!
Jose, The
And these ones
Lolo.
also.
Yes!
Yeah.
And the Kukaysayan. So, 10-10 ba yan? Malay nyo, kayo po ang manalo po ng librong ito. So, thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
sobrang
Thank you
timely this
also.
August kasi is Linggo ng Wika. And,
Yes. And
it's
history
better.
month.
Saka suportahan po natin ang sarili nating mga authors. I am an author, my husband is an author. So, suportahan po natin. This is the time, di ba? May mga posts nga tayo na bilhin natin ang sarili nating produkto, especially in this time of pandemic. Pagyamanin natin. Especially our authors as well. Because we really have very, very good contents. Okay. Sige, maraming salamat. I will see you
Thank
later.
you.
I will wrap this up.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so
See you
much.
Bye,
later. Don't forget, Juonee, Divine, Michelle, and Bench, don't leave. Wow! Thank you so much! Hello, Ryla! Hello, RG! Na nagstay po kayo, talagang engaged na engaged tayong lahat. I really, kasi pag history talaga, kahit ilang oras talagang pakikinggan ko yan. But anyway, I just want to make certain na mga announcements. Kasi hindi na ako magbibigay ng takeaway dahil madami na. So, dahil po, alam ko, okay, ang ating pong truth about accreditation ng homeschool provider hanggang August 3 na lang po. It still continue. Watch po, and you will have a chance to win the scholarships. Okay, next. Okay, ang mga nanalo na po ay si Aloha and Mish Carlos. Next. Okay. Ang gagawin po natin sa iHomeschool page, di ba, twice a week po tayo. Gagawin na po natin once a week. Dahil alam ko po, mag-homeschool na po tayo. Ako rin po, magtuturo po ng mga anak. Gagawin ko na po ang live natin once a week. So excited po ako sa August 7, Homeschooling for Mental Health. And with our expert, Tito Almadin will talk about that. Okay. Now, okay, next. Pag-asa sa pagbasa, if you have books po na gamit na at hindi po gamit, you can donate to our Pag-asa sa pagbasa. Okay? And we will put our link, and please follow sa Facebook. And then, if you want to know more about iHomeschool, anything about homeschooling and legalities, you can join our Viber account. Yes. If you want to know more about homeschooling, you can buy my book at $750 for physical book and digital book for 500 pesos. Okay, at www.ihomeschool.ph. Okay, and if you get this book, you will have free student organizer and teacher organizer as well. Okay. Okay. Lagi lang po nating tatandaan, okay, in homeschooling, relationship is more important than academics. Okay, tangkilitin po natin ang ating Filipino products. Marami pong salamat. Bye for now. See you. Have a good night. Bye.